All right, today we're talking about something pretty wild. It's a story where incredible faith crashes right into a major crime. We're going inside the S. Tirumala Parakamani, which you can think of as a super high security treasury at one of the world's holiest sites. It's where all the offerings from millions and millions of devotees get counted. But that security was breached and the sacred vault was plundered. So let's get into it.
So, this is the big question, right? I mean, this place is supposed to be locked down tight, constant surveillance, staff everywhere, and yet a fortune in gold and silver just, poof, vanishes. You gotta ask, how on earth does that happen?
So let's get into it. We are talking about a massive heist. And you know, this isn't just about the money. It's about a huge violation of trust, right in a sacred place. It's something that really shakes people's faith.
So let's be clear about what the Parakamani actually is. Picture this. A high-security vault where every single offering, and I mean everything from the tiniest gold ring to these big silver plates, is supposed to be carefully sorted and counted. And remember, these aren't just valuables. They're symbols of deep, personal faith from everyday people, and they're gone.
Okay, so when the investigation finally gets going, you'd think they'd be looking everywhere, right? But nope, they almost immediately zeroed in on one single person, which, for a crime this big, seemed, well, a little strange to a lot of people.
And that person is Conchalayan. He's an employee, someone who worked right inside the counting center. Suddenly, he's the one and only focus of the entire investigation. The official story is that he's the guy who is systematically sneaking all these precious offerings out.
So what did they find? Well, here's the official number, 555 grams of gold. They say they recovered it from Conchalayan. Now don't get me wrong, that's a lot of gold. But as you're about to see, a whole lot of people are looking at that number and thinking, no way, that can't be all of it. They're convinced it's just the tip of the iceberg.
And this is what I find so interesting. Just look at the variety of what was taken. This isn't like someone stealing a bunch of gold bars from a bank. You see it on the list right there. Gold biscuits, chains, bangles, even little tiny pendants. These are incredibly personal items, you know. Each one has a story behind it. And now they're just evidence in a criminal case.
And hey, it wasn't just gold. They also found 157 grams of silver.
And again, look at what we're talking about here. Silver lamps, plates, things that people offer up as part of their worship. Deeply personal, sacred items. So the official line is, this silver plus that gold we just saw, that's everything they recovered. Case closed. But yeah, a lot of folks are not buying that story at all.
And if you want to understand why so many people are skeptical, you really have to look at the timeline. Because when you lay out the sequence of events, some serious questions about security and who is watching the place start to pop up.
Okay, so just look at this timeline for a second. The thefts were supposedly happening for weeks, right? Between December and January. But nobody noticed a thing until January 11th. That's a huge red flag. How can this keep happening day after day for that long in what's supposed to be one of the most secure places like this in the world? It just doesn't add up.
And of course, with a scandal this big, it didn't take long for it to turn into a political firestorm. You got the new government and the old one just pointing fingers back and forth at each other.
So here's where the political battle really heats up. Supporters of the previous government, they're pointing to an older case. They're saying, hey, when a smaller theft happened on our watch, we seized a ton of assets. Our investigation was way more thorough. And they're using that to criticize the current government, saying this new investigation is super limited. I mean, they're only focusing on one guy, and they've only recovered what critics say is just a tiny fraction of what's really missing. The big accusation here is that they're not even trying to find the whole truth.
And this quote right here, it really sums up the whole criticism. The theory goes something like this. If you keep the investigation laser-focused on one low-level guy, then the real masterminds, the big fish as they say, never have to face the music. They are protected.
So, when you put it all together, what are you left with? Well, a whole lot of unanswered questions that kind of cast a dark shadow over this entire investigation.
First up, is 555 grams of gold really all that was stolen? I mean, seriously, given that long timeline and the massive security failures, does that number really seem believable? Or is it just a convenient number? You know, just enough to show the public, close the case, and move on.
And then there's this. If that big fish theory is true, well, who are they? The accusation is pretty clear. There is no way a single employee could have pulled this off all by himself. Not for that long. He had to have help, probably from some very powerful and influential people. And this might be the biggest question of them all. Why stop the investigation with just one person? You'd think a real thorough investigation would look at the entire chain of command, right? Check the security protocols, talk to other employees. The fact that the focus is so narrow, well, to a lot of people, that looks like a deliberate choice.
And so, that's where we're left.
with this huge, lingering doubt. You've got politics swirling around, an investigation that seems way too narrow, and you have to wonder, will the millions of devotees who poured their faith and their hard-earned offerings into that temple's care ever find out what really happened? Or are the real secrets of the great Parakamani heist just going to stay locked away forever?